Hey guys, how's it going? I'm EG Magnum, and this is kind of my everything video for Outriders. I'm going to be covering pretty much just some basic stuff, a little bit of everything here in the intro section. I'm going to talk about the story, the gameplay, the endgame, and then kind of my summary of concerns, and maybe a few likes, that I have about the game and what I'm hoping to see, and then we'll wrap it up somewhere around there, something like that. Anyway, if this is going out after the launch, then oops, I didn't get editing done, but I still think there's some stuff to talk about. Even still, if you're wanting more content like this, hit that sub button and like the video or whatnot if you like it. Also, on a quick side note, I am using different software when making this video, so if you could let me know in the comments if there's anything offensive with, say, mainly the audio, that would be much appreciated. But anyway, I'll definitely be making more content as we go along with this launch. And, first impressions kind of thing. Maybe the end game, how that's looking, what potential the game has, and maybe some build videos at the very least, I hope, if it keeps my attention that much. Hopefully, we don't have some other problems. But yeah, let's go ahead then and kind of start talking about things. And in this first section, I'm kind of just gonna talk about, this is kind of like a pre-summary kind of thing of what I'm thinking. Then we'll kind of go through it, talk it out, explain a lot of stuff, and then we'll have a summary of the concerns and maybe some likes at the end. And I'll pretty much throw up a timestamp here in a second. By the way, timestamps will be in the description for each of the sections. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. So first things first, how am I feeling overall? In general, feels pretty good, feels pretty okay. Somewhere around there. I say this in regards to mainly the gameplay and the story and just overall what I felt from the demo. Now, what are they doing right so far that is not the biggest deal but has definitely caught my eye? Well, I guess first of all, they've been communicating and changing things already in a demo, which is something kind of nice to see for a change. And they've already put in some kind of button thing for console stuff. Cool. And then the motion blur, which is a big thing I like to see, patch, and I mean they're working on it, which is great. Sad to say that that's great at this point. They're doing what they should be doing, so let's not go too heavy with that. But yeah, it's nice to see, and they seem to be listening. Now, with them listening, though, I noticed something. One of the community managers had a Square Enix tag on Reddit, and that kind of gets me a little concerned. And this, again, could be just me getting a little paranoid or whatever, tinfoil hat going on. But I was really trying not to, say some other game names in this. But let's just go ahead and talk about one that Square Enix also published, the Avengers game. And yes, they have said some of the right things, saying that it's not a live service, but just saying it's not doesn't mean it couldn't change into one in the future. So I don't really, they're saying the right things, but let's, we can talk about that more later. Overall, though, they seem to have a good philosophy to how they want to make this game, and as far as like mechanics in game, etc., they mentioned Diablo 2 being a thing, and that makes me pretty happy because I'm a big fan of Diablo 2 and stuff like Path of Exile. So if they're going in that direction, which has been what I've been saying for the longest time for all of these shooter kind of things, that it needs to go somewhere that way. Now, overall, the back to the Avengers problem, is Square Enix the publisher? Well, is it Square Enix that messed with Marvel's Avengers? Maybe there was some design problems, who knows, maybe we'll get a thing coming out later, that's a different video, but it's still a concern since they published both these games. And right now, though, things are looking up, things are looking good, so we'll have to just wait and see, but that is definitely more of a minor concern. I might bring it up later, as far as what my major concerns are with what they do, but so far, so good. So the story, guys. So, overall, it's okay. Nothing offensive here, it's pretty acceptable. I'm actually kind of interested to see where they go with this, and I don't think it's gonna, win any awards, but who knows, they could surprise me. So far, the writing seems pretty good as far as the dialogue goes. I'm enjoying the humor that they have. But the overarching story is pretty much you are going to find a new Earth because the other Earth just went to shit. There you go. So, That's the main premise of the whole game. And you know, then you get to the planet, crazy things happen, you get powers, and then now you went back into cryo, and when you come out, that's when you find out you have powers or whatever. But thing is, it's been a time skip, and the beautiful planet is now kind of somewhat of a wasteland in the area that you wake up. Hopefully, there's still some beautiful parts. From what we've seen in some of the Endgame stuff, looks like they're actually going to have that. And the gameplay and story seem pretty linear. You kind of just go through the main quest line and then do some side quests if you want to. There doesn't seem to be too much free roam kind of thing going on. And I'm really curious to know how you're going to really respawn stuff. I think the main endgame, though, is going to be a repeatable thing, and you're only meant to go through the story once as you level your character. So overall, the linear part doesn't really break too much of the immersion of a world, and the world building isn't bad. I actually am really interested in these world type stuff, this kind of genre, I guess I should say. So yeah, it's definitely got my attention. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes, especially with the little cutscene in your head where the planet might be talking to you or something. But yeah, we'll see where that goes. Okay, so the gameplay. Well, there's actually a lot to talk about here, and I've been trying to figure out exactly where to start and where to go with this. So overall, the gameplay is fun. Let's start there. And the performance works really well on my laptop, so I'm pretty happy with that. We'll see what happens when the full game releases, but so far in the demo, looking good. Now, a couple of my complaints, and then we'll kind of go into what I'm curious about, and then we'll talk about the build, stuff like that. So, multiplayer travel is probably the only complaint I really have with the gameplay right now. Overall, there's a couple of jank things with cover stuff, but please change that travel button so that it automatically causes people to travel and you decline to stop it from happening. It's just really weird having to hit accept so that you go. I like it to accept so that it happens instantly, but have it just automate so that it'll just go ahead and send no matter what. The other thing is, what are we going to be doing with the style of play here? Well, they've been mentioning a lot of ARPG stuff, so I'm really interested in that, and Diablo kind of loot, gearing, and farming bosses is something I really like. You know, I'm a big fan of stuff like Diablo 2 and Path of Exile, so I like that they're going in that direction. Now, the shooting seems to kind of take more of a back seat over the ability usage, which I also like that. And they want you to farm bosses and clear tons of enemies with your abilities more so than your shooting. Now, there are buffs to guns with certain classes that just buff ammo types, or just buff your ammo, rather, and you do some different damage because of those abilities, and that can work out really well. So if you want to shoot, this is definitely something you can do, but I do like that they're focusing on abilities rather than just pew-pew and possibly ending up with a bullet sponge situation. Now, the question is, how many builds are we going to get? Possibly looking at each of the trees that they showed, and I'll talk about the skill trees here later, but the trees look like you can get about 12 different builds going for all the classes as far as just a base. Now, the cool thing is looking at all the ability modifiers on gear, and we'll talk about gear here in a second as well, you can actually make even more. So, build variety looks like there could be some very high potential for variety, and that's what I'm looking for. I will say for the demo gameplay, the leveling loot was actually pretty nice. This is a game that has gotten it right for that. I already mentioned Marvel's Avengers, so we'll go ahead and mention it again. Pretty much whatever the bigger number is, put that on while playing through the game, and then you finally can tweak a few stats that pretty much don't really change too much when you get to the end, which was rather annoying. This, I was swapping gear all the time, even though the number's bigger. It didn't seem to change much other than really what the health might be on it, or if ability damage is going up, or if your gun damage is going up. And that's the stat that you're really looking at. And what is the modifier? Literally getting to use an ability twice and being able to just destroy an entire of enemies by doing that twice is definitely better than having a bit more damage with your gun. So I really like that. So far, so good. The leveling loot feels like you're making choices as you're going along, and just feeling that in the demo felt great. Now, hopefully, it doesn't carry over into the full game, or sorry, hopefully it does carry over into the full game, but hopefully it doesn't disappear when you get around mid-game, and that can be an issue with certain games. Even though I will say I still don't like having a number system to be like, this is your gear score. But hey, you know, it happens. Luckily, like this game, and I'll mention another one, Ghost of Tsushima, where the gear score didn't really seem to matter as much compared to the utility of what we're using, which I really like that. Also, finding out that you can level your stuff up in Tsushima made me sad when I deleted most of my unique items going up, which, yeah. So, I wonder if they're going to do that for the items here. There are legendaries, and if you can level them up all the way up to where you're max, that'll be curious if they do it like that, or will you have to refine some of the legendary? And that's going to be kind of the curious thing. How can you alter your gear to either have to farm more of the same piece or not? Now, I know that can be a problem if you have to find the same gear over and over again till you get the better stats of the same piece. That's one of my problems with Diablo 3, and hopefully they don't go in that direction. So as an example of a concern that I have here was in the demo, the best way I found to farm legendaries was a very boring way that I definitely didn't want to show on the stream because it was just me running in, killing 3 dudes, and dying. Now, with the way they have the expedition set up for the endgame, I don't think that's going to be a problem. But as far as it goes, hopefully there's not a boring way to farm items, and it's actually really entertaining. Now again, the demo kind of presented this problem and probably burnt a couple of people out. I hope that didn't happen to a lot of people, but there is that concern. Again, probably not even really a concern considering how they have the endgame set up and how they talked about it, but just wanted to point out in the demo, it was really weird that the best way to get items was to run in, kill 3 dudes, die, and just repeat that 400 times. Now, okay, so before we get into the classes real quick, what is the gimmick of the game that really kind of stands out, sort of? Really, it's more of they want you to play aggressively and get kills and deal damage to heal. The cover system, I already said, was kind of jank, and it pretty much don't want to get into cover at all unless you are trying to not die at that moment. That's pretty much the only reason to. Other than that, you want to be going aggressive, getting in there and doing damage. Even with the Technomancer, when I talk about it here in a second, I pretty much played it up front, and that's kind of how I'm going to try it. So, the way each class heals, though, real quick, I'll cover it like this. The Technomancer, you deal damage, so you get leech with your abilities and your gun. Then with the Pyromancer, as long as your debuff dot for lighting things on fire is on an enemy when they die, you get, I think it's like 25% of your health back, something around there. With the Trickster, you gain about 20% of your life back, and then you also gain a shield on top of your health bar, so you get kind of like an overheal that'll disappear as it goes on. So you kind of want to take advantage of just killing as many guys near you, by the way, as possible. That's the only way that you'll heal as a Trickster. And then I think it also works if somebody else gets the kill, but you're near the guy that dies. So it's really if they die next. And the Devastator is the exact same as far as how you heal, but you gain 30% of your health back rather than just 20, but you're a lot tankier with the abilities with damage reduction, and we'll go into the classes now. So with the classes, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Aoshi-san on Twitch, and he also has a YouTube channel. Both of those will be in the description down below. Go hit him with a follow on Twitch, and hit him with a subscribe on YouTube. Smash that subscribe button or whatever. But yeah, guys, it was a lot of fun playing the multiplayer way of this, and I really had a change in how I felt about the game when it came to the multiplayer and where my concerns lie. So let's go ahead and start with a Technomancer, which is kind of where my first concern lies. This is one of the two classes I played, which is the Technomancer and Pyromancer. He played the Trickster and the Devastator. So Technomancer, you have a lot of gear, as it would say that you make out of tech in your magic ability, or whatever whatever they're causing this to have abilities. You throw tech around. You could spawn gun. You can spawn a minigun. So the thing is, they really want to make you play this as a long-range class. Now, I want to get up in their face. You can slam the ground and shield things and freeze things, which is really cool. But as far as the abilities go, you're spawning gadget tech that do different things. Now, the cool part is the gear modifiers seem to really modify a lot, giving certain things cryo effects, giving you second use. So I even had an unlimited ammo build, which was kind of awesome with my Gatling gun thing, or my LMG. Now, the Gatling gun is an ability all by itself, and it seems like you would want to play that more mid-range. So I'm hoping there's some cool mid-range builds that we can do with this class, or even close range, and it work out really well. Again, there seems to be potential here for build, but it seems like they really want you to play long range, because as far as the math goes, it looks like long range is going to give you the most damage. So doing sniper stuff might be the best way to play this class if you're trying to go top scores. Hopefully everything else is viable, but that is a concern of mine, and that's why I point this out, because the next thing is this is kind of set up to be the healer class. And one of the trees that it has definitely allows you to heal your allies better with your abilities. Now, if they go in the direction of maybe having a tank, healer, and then DPS, we can only have 3 people, so that's kind of going to be curious how they set that up. But I'm really hoping that the bosses that they come up with are more than just bullet sponges, and they actually have some really solid mechanics that you have to play around. One thing that they could do here, and we'll talk about that in the Devastator, is one of the abilities kind of make you shield your teammates. And if they do certain things like that and use those abilities to essentially protect from stuff that would one-shot your group, that would be really cool. Now, with the healer thing, I really hope it doesn't come down to where you pretty much need one in the end game on a team. Now, hopefully you can have a Technomancer that DPS Technomancer and then a healing one at the same time, and that work out pretty well. Again, that's kind of going to be my concern, is how is the balance of the game with this. But as far as how Technomancer plays, I love it. It's green, so plus there. And you throw down your gadgets and stuff, turrets. It was a lot of fun doing the unlimited ammo build. And playing long range still is fun, but I definitely want to get in there, intensify that barrage, and do my little thing. Also, that missile turret was fantastic. And there's another turret down the line. Again, you get a rocket launcher or a minigun with one ability. So I'm really looking forward to this. One ability is like a heal thing later on. But I definitely want to see what I can do damage-wise with this class, and I hope it's competitive and comparable when you get to the end game. Moving on to the Pyromancer, though. The Pyromancer is a AoE class for the most part. Now, one of the cool things they did show off was a set bonus recently in a video where you could do a build around a set of legendary items that is like your gear, your gloves, and stuff like that. So it looks like we're going to have sets, and I'll talk about that more in the gear thing and my concerns there. But you can actually make some cool looking builds, looks like, and they were showing off an AoE type build. Now the question is, will we have some presets? Can we swap some gear before we go into certain boss fights? Will we have to have gear before we go into the area? And how will that work? Looks like from just playing the story, you can just swap gear whenever. So you might be able to swap gear in these expedition instances for a single target setup and a AoE setup. Hopefully at that point, again, we have actual gear sets for that kind of thing. So, what is the main thing with the Pyromancer? You put dots on things that give you healing and do a lot of fire damage. And it looks like there's some nice little burst things you can do. Big AoE stuff. I definitely like firewall, doing all this crazy stuff, and exploding enemies. You can literally turn one guy into like a living bomb. So it looks like a very fun class. Now, I will say the problem with the demo is it was pretty weak overall. It was probably the weakest class in the demo. But this could be one of those cases where you gain power as you go along. So it starts off, kind of weak, but then you are AoEing the entire screen later on, which is kind of like the build that they showed. So I'm definitely curious to see what we end up with this class, and this is going to be the one I probably play with somebody, just because, again, it feels kind of weak early on in the game, whereas the Technomancer, I pretty much could just, as long as I was hitting something, I'm healing. And that's the other thing. This thing, you have to get heals for the heal to take effect, and you don't have any really reductions or anything that's too bursty out the gate to keep you alive whenever you need something to die. And the living bomb thing takes time for them to explode, which can die in the process. Happened to me playing solo a couple of times. But overall, I love fire stuff. I am big on the mage type class, and that's what this looks like. And I'm definitely going to be playing this as one of my main classes. Now let's go ahead and hop into the Trickster. I didn't play this. This one was Aushi, again playing this one. The main thing with this and my wow, I like this moment when playing in a group was when he dropped the temporal shield thing. You'll see the dome probably in the footage. And yeah, it slows everything down, and we were able to combo and do some crazy stuff with our abilities mixed in. I definitely like this about the game, and I'm really excited to see what kind of combos you can do as a party of 3. Now, with the Trickster, definitely kind of your rogue assassin type class here. You got a little blade thing that you can do. I saw like a little spin to win thing. Looks really cool. I'm definitely interested in seeing what this thing can do. I wonder if this is going to be your main highest DPS single target class, probably. But maybe not. Like I said, there's spin to win doing some AoE things. So we'll see where it goes. But overall, definitely looks like a big damaging class. And the shield thing, as long as you're killing stuff, I don't know. It feels like it might be actually insanely tanky compared to, well, the previous 2 I talked about. And I'm really curious to see if this class and the next one we're talking about are really the best 2 overall. But I definitely want to play, well, the ones I said, because I think there's some interesting builds that you can do. And hopefully everything's competitive and balanced. And with that said, again, I didn't play the Trickster, but it looked like a lot of fun doing the rogue thing, teleporting and all that. Yes, it does do a big long teleport, which is cool. Now, moving on to the Devastator. Actually, also played this. This thing looks crazy early on. Now, is this one of those cases where the early on abilities are the best one? Well, in that case, this is insane. Don't shield wall thing, whatever, for bullets. You catch the bullets, you become Neo, and then you throw them back at everybody, and you obliterate an entire room. It's kind of gross. You're very tanky. Again, you heal when you're close up. You can get damage reductions all over the place. You get the, like I said, the shield that just blocks bullets, which is insane. And I'm curious to know if, that shield can block, say, like a boss throwing a one-shot at people. That would be really cool, and that's what I was kind of getting at with the tank thing. Now, that would mean you probably need a Devastator at some point in a group, so hopefully you don't necessarily need one to complete all the content, but that would be cool if you could get around certain things like that. Now, if they come out with the content specifically designed for that, maybe that's the Expedition number 15, it's actually like a raid setup, that would be kind of cool. Again, lots of speculation here as far as what the endgame is going to be mechanics-wise for bosses, but I'd love to see really cool mechanics, and we'll, again, talk about that in the endgame, but just kind of hinting at what I'm hoping we get and what my concerns are right here. So the Devastator looks really cool, very tanky, powerhouse. This may be probably the easiest to level solo, and yeah, it's kind of looks insane. You can turn into rocks and gravity throw yourself or something at the enemy and they just explode. Yeah, the abilities look really cool. Definitely something I might check out as a later class because, yeah, I like the Technomancer, I like the green, I like the tech stuff. I just hope I can do what I want to with it. And overall, though, all the classes kind of feel pretty good with their ability. And that's the main thing that I'd take away from this, is all the classes and their abilities feel unique, diverse, and definitely work pretty well. I guess I didn't really say this in the Technomancer thing, but getting used to throwing the stuff is a little awkward, but once you get used to it, it's not that bad. Just aiming and stuff got a little weird at first, and then, I got better. So, looking again at the questions I have here is, how balanced is the game? Again, the Devastator looks really strong early, and sometimes if that stuff is strong early, it scales out of control late game. And will the game be challenging? One of the things they said about the expeditions is they'll be brutal and insanely difficult. Well, I hope they hold true to that statement, because if not, I'm going to be disappointed and probably not playing the game too much. I like a challenge. I like something that's going to keep me grinding for it. You know, the main story's there, and I am all about that content in a game that is meant for the top of the top. I want content that I can't beat, or that is very hard. If they do put that in, who knows how much complaints they'll get, but I do want some really insane content. Now, it looks like what they're doing is you can scale it to be insane, but I also kind of just want it to be insane naturally, and I'm hoping that's the case. And then you can just scale it to super insanity later on. Okay, so crafting and the builds and what kind of itemization and stuff we have here. The crafting that I'll talk about in the in-game section, because apparently that's an in-game thing. But you can level your gear up to kind of keep up with where you're going if you like the current gear you have. Now, how far will that go? Can you level it up all the way and progressing it? We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if that'll be like a Ghost of Tsushima kind of thing, but I definitely kind of like that a little bit. I will say, if you just found the better gear at the beginning and then you kind of pushed it all the way to the end, that kind of sucks a little bit. But the thing is, you do need resources, so you'd have to at least farm if you wanted to keep that same piece. Now, as far as the gear goes, you have a lot of mods and a lot of deconstructing that you can do to get mods to then put on stuff. Again, talk about that in the in-game, but still kind of mentioning it here because you can have up to 2 mods on both your armor and your guns with some of the purple items that I saw, and then there's the legendary. My concern with the legendary item is I always like having something that I can craft and find randomly be a little bit better than the legendary or gear sets. Now, apparently they have sets in this, and hopefully, though, these sets aren't becoming an issue with what we got as far as, you know, in-game builds. Like, oh, well, you have to have this set to have the best version of that ability set. I hope this is just a different way to make another build based on your abilities, kind of like how the tree would set up and everything kind of combos together. Now, I mentioned the skill tree, and it's kind of the weak part. The only one that I really went through is the Technomancer. The middle one, I think, is kind of more the heal one. Then you have like 2 damage ones or utility type things with some of the abilities, points you can put in the skill tree. And overall, this is kind of meh. It's okay. I really am curious how many points we have. Now, I think there's already a calculator out there. I haven't looked at those. Not really trying to figure out how many points we have yet. I'm just kind of voicing my concern because either way, if you have too many points, you can get too much, and then those trees like that are kind of meh. But if you have too little, then you're kind of forcing yourself to pick one of the 3, and then you're probably going to use the abilities that you're stuck with enhancing that you barely had points to enhance. So that's my concern with the skill tree itself. Now, back to the gear, though, and why this could override some of that, is you get tons of ability enhancement. Use the ability a second time, cooldown stuff. I made an unlimited ammo build because one of the item ability, or how it altered one of my abilities with the item gear piece. I think it was on glove. So really cool stuff. And if you can get 2 on each gear, especially when you're on purple and legendary type situation, that's a lot of customization, and I am really excited. Now, the question is, can you make builds that'll trivialize the content at the end game? Probably. And that's kind of going to suck, and hopefully they can balance that out pretty quickly, but that is a concern with balancing yet again. So let's go ahead, though, and start talking about the end game, because now that we're talking about some of the balancing and builds, it looks crazy when you start talking about the crafting. So let's just get into the end game. Okay, so end game. So I said crafting last, so we'll talk about that. You have crazy amounts of crafts, apparently 350 different mods. Now, I guess some of those are mainly just for armor, and some are going to be for weapons, so probably not for everything. But the thing is, you got a bunch of different modifiers put on with these that when you break down, you get them unlocked, and you can use them later. And wow, it looks kind of insane how much you can customize and craft items. Now, we haven't really fully seen the full system, but I am really curious to see how they're going to implement all of this and balance it out, because being able to customize a legendary is kind of insane. Now, again, back to the itemization thing, I really hope that the purples or whatever the thing that isn't, because legendaries are kind of more of a unique thing. I'm hoping the unique thing isn't the most powerful item. Yes, it's cool that they're rare or whatever, but finding a really good statted, like I guess purple might be the thing before legendary. If the purples are really good and you can actually have the best items be the purple because it's RNG based, I think that's probably the better way to go. But at the same time, everybody likes their legendaries, and those would be like essentially top tier, but then best in slot would be just a barely, like a 5% increase in damage or something with a purple that is perfectly rolled kind of thing is kind of what I'm thinking of. So being able to craft those then and change the abilities, and that is just well done. Like the amount of build potential here and customization as you go is amazing. I am definitely curious to see how this works, see how it turns out. The potential is high, and it has my attention, it has me excited. Now, their in-game content, they said it would be hard. Well, does this translate into bullet sponge, or are we going to have some really interesting mechanics? So, another game I mentioned was Ghost of Tsushima. Another one that people have paired some of the raid stuff in it was the Destiny kind of stuff, where they have different mechanics that you go do as you're fighting the bullet sponge type enemy, or you're just fighting the waves of enemies while you're doing stuff. And I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do with that. Are we going to have random mechanics, or are we going to actually have like MMO boss mechanics? They've already shown that they put a lot of stuff on the ground, and I love these indicators because it makes it feel like we're playing a third-person MMO. One to kind of point out would be maybe something like Elder Scrolls Online, and I'm really curious to know if they're going to go in an MMO route when designing boss fights, or are they going to go into this shooter thing that we've had where it turns bullet spongy. Hopefully it's the MMO thing, but we'll just have to wait and see. And hopefully the builds don't get to trivialize this content, and that it's actually really challenging. Now, I guess I pretty much gushed over the potential here, and it could be good, but that is my biggest concern, is what is this in-game? Luckily, they've pointed out what their idea is and their philosophy. So I'm liking what I'm hearing. They're saying the right thing, and that's kind of the biggest concern with in-game. Definitely shorter section of the gameplay, but this is kind of like the extended part, and that's really about all I got for in-game as of right now. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, high potential, but a big concern if they really slip up and mess up here. Okay, so moving into the concerns section, pretty much if you decided to skip to this point, I talked about the gameplay and stuff. Pretty much, hopefully it runs well on the full release. So far it runs well on the laptop. Some of the changes that they've made is really cool. I would like to see a change for gameplay being the multiplayer travel stuff. Make it to where you automatically are readied up, but you can make it go now if you hit yes, rather than you have to hit yes or you have to start the countdown again. Overall, I like their philosophy for their gameplay. I really hope the game's challenging, and that's both in gameplay and in-game. And I love the potential that they have for build diversity, build potential, but hopefully there's not too many things that break the game and make it trivialized early on. I know I'm going to be grinding out a lot, and I want the in-game to be challenging and kind of kick my teeth in. I've been looking for a game to do that, and I love that the ability style of play definitely is better than the shooting. Now, yeah, it's fun, has a lot of potential, pretty cool. Story, I guess, really nothing too crazy to say here, but so there's no really concern. So, but I guess a good like is that it just doesn't seem bad yet, so we'll see what happens. And hopefully what they've said and their philosophy and what they, put out there isn't any, lying or anything like that. That's obviously a concern these days. Really sad with what's happened with some recent games and stuff. So I'm hoping that they are, doing what they say they're doing, and they really believe what they've been pointing out with their, how they want to develop the game and make it themselves. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Gentlemen, you have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
So guys, let me know in the comments below how interested you are in the game and what you're looking forward to. Again, I'll be making some more videos letting you know what I think of the endgame when I get there and what I think of some of the story playing through, and then maybe some build videos. So overall, like, comment, subscribe, all that. Usual links will be down in the description, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, stuff like that, guys. But anyway, that'll be it for this one. Have a good one. Thanks for watching. Peace!